So let's first understand why is Excel relevant or why do we need Excel? The primary uses of Excel are to perform various mathematical and logical functions such that it helps in analyzing and interpreting the data for decision making. One of the other major functions of Excel is also around data representation. So how do I show my data to someone such that it makes sense, and eventually again helping them in analyzing and interpreting the data. So eventually either we are performing some sort of logical mathematical sort of functions on it, or we are formatting and presenting data in a format that it helps anyone analyze and interpret the data for the primary purpose of decision making. Now, Excel is one of the most important tools that is relevant for us in terms of financial services as well as general management studies. Almost all aspects of a career as a management graduate will involve some degree of Excel in some form or fashion. So whether you graduate in marketing or you graduate in finance or you graduate in, let's say, HR or operations, eventually Excel is going to be very, very important for us in this entire construct of building a career. Right? Now, what are the major aspects of Excel? So when you look at an Excel file, essentially you have a workbook, which is an Excel file, just like any other file, Word file, PPT, etc. So you have something called as .xlx file or XLSX file, depending on what version of Excel you're using. But primarily XLS or XLSX is what the version would be. Within one workbook, you will have worksheets. So one workbook could have multiple worksheets. So you have a workbook which could have worksheet 1 and it could have worksheet 2 depending on what the requirement is. And then within each worksheet you have a variety of cells which are present for your general purpose understanding of Excel and performing the functions that we see here in terms of uses of Excel. So let's see what it looks like. So this is what a general workbook would look like. So essentially when you open an Excel file, it would kind of give you a space construct which would have these grids created. There are some toolbars here which are available. We'll come to them as we go along, but primarily this is your workbook and the name of the workbook is defined here. This is book1.excel, right? Book1 Excel is what we see. What is a worksheet? Now, within each workbook, you will see these sheets getting created. You see this plus item here, so you can keep adding sheets. You can name the sheets as you go along. And this is primarily what a worksheet would look like essentially. And within these worksheets, you would have what are called as rows denoted by the numbers, and you have columns denoted by alphabets, right? So that's how you kind of create grids, and each of these portions is what is known as a cell, right? A cell is denoted by a row and a column number. So a cell is identified by a row number and a column number. Over here, we are saying, let's say we are looking at cell L6. So this is L and 6. Why? Because I am in row 6 and I am in column L. If I were to identify row E2, that's E and that's 2. So this particular cell is what gets identified as E2. Let's try one more. Let's say B12. So B and 12. So that's B12 for me. That's how we identify the cells and kind of perform whatever functionalities are available in Excel using data that is put in these cells. Whereas the data is identified by these cell numbers, which is a combination of a row and a column number. Fine. Let us now look at an actual Excel and try and look at these data points and look at these functions within the Excel file. So that's my Excel file as it would look like. You see on the left bottom corner, this is what a sheet looks like. It's called sheet 1. Can I name the sheet? Can I name the sheet to my requirement? I can. So if I do a right click here, I can rename it. So you see that gets selected. I can rename this as, let's say, anything. I can rename it as basics. So that's my basic sheet. I can also double click on this such that it selects, and I can rename it as basics 1, for example, right? And I click anywhere else and it kind of copies the name. I can add another sheet. If I click on this plus, it'll keep adding sheets. I can delete the sheet. I can also right click and insert a sheet, right? So I can insert a sheet